I have two very special guests with me today, and these two are very near and dear to the National Police Association. We believe so much in uh, police officer and first responder mental health, and we're also big fans of dogs in general, and especially therapy dogs. So, CW Lemoine and Lunabelle, therapy dog extraordinaire. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here.
So, CW, we'll talk about how Lunabelle came to be your partner. But first, I want to talk about because you really led a life of service and continue to do so. Tell folks about your military career and then how you came to law enforcement.
So, I mean, my military career was started as a kind of I call it the make them tell you no story because I was always told that, you don't have the vision to be a fighter pilot. You don't have the grades. You don't have, you're not an astronaut. And I kept going and I flew the F-16 down at Homestead. And then I was trying to go back home. So I went to the Navy Reserve, flew the F-18. And while I was flying the F-18, I had been a Krav Maga instructor. And so I was trying to find a way to give back. And one day I called the sheriff's office and said, "Hey, I had done seminars in the past. Would that be something you're interested in?" And they said, "Well, if you want to volunteer, you have to be a reserve deputy." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about that. Let me just try it out." And I went to the Reserve Academy, which in Louisiana, it's a full academy just at night. It's the same amount of hours and everything. And I loved it. I thought it was, it's fun. I'd always been into law enforcement and enjoyed lights and sirens and, doing all the cool stuff that cops do. And so that was 2014, and now it's been 10 years. I flew the T-38 after that and continued doing law enforcement and this as a reserve deputy, and then finished the field training program, became a road certified patrol deputy, and I've loved it ever since.
What surprised you the most when you got into the academy and then on into field training about law enforcement? Were there some myths that you really thought about cops that got dispelled?
Well, I mean, before you do it, you always see what's on TV and what's in the news. And, you kind of think it's going to be this run and gun. Everything is, handled in 42 minutes because that's what a normal TV show is. And it's always going to work out. Right. And so I think by doing it, you see some of the limitations that we have. It's not always a happy ending, unfortunately. You're not always going to solve the crime, and it may take a while to get the resolution you want. And a lot of things on patrol, sometimes there's just no closure. You'll do a case, you'll hand it off to the detectives, and then you'll never hear what happens after that. So I think you have to learn to compartmentalize it and do the best you can with what you have at that time, and then just hope the process after that works out really well.
CW, you came into law enforcement at a time where the vilification of law enforcement was really, really beginning in 2014, and of course, we saw protests after the death of Michael Brown, who tried to kill a cop in Ferguson, Missouri, and then all the way forward to 2020 and the death of George Floyd, where the entire profession was
Yeah.
blamed, and we saw cities burning and all of that. Talk about that from your perspective as a reserve, as somebody who really chose to stay involved.
Yeah, and I've got a little bit different of a perspective because I have a huge social media following. I've got a YouTube channel with over 400,000 subscribers. I've written books, and it wasn't fair. You see the comments in YouTube and stuff, and you always see it's a very myopic view that a lot of people get about law enforcement, where they think that it's perfect 2020 hindsight vision every time something happens, and then they jump to conclusions, and that becomes the narrative, even if it's wrong. Like the hands up, don't shoot thing, and all these narratives that turned out to not be correct. That becomes the prevailing truth to them. So I would get comments in stuff that was even unrelated to that, just because people knew that I was in law enforcement. That the standard, you know, ACOB, cops are bad and stuff like that. And what I saw, having gone through it and gone through the field training and stuff, is the people that I work with are all trying to do the best they can. They're using the tools that they have available, and they want to help people. This vilification is just not right, because for the most part, now granted, there are bad cops, and those cops should be rooted out. There's no question about that. If they're bad, they make us all look bad, and not I don't know a single cop that says, "Hey, we should protect those that are doing the bad thing," because we have public trust. But from a day-to-day perspective, they become your brothers and sisters out there, and you see that they're just trying to get through their day, to help people, to go home to their families, and to make sure that each other that they protect each other. So uh, I just I have seen that. And one funny example, I went and did a video with the Harrison County Sheriff's Office, and I had these trolls that were following me around saying that I was with the Harris County Sheriff's Office. They're like, "You work for the Harris County Sheriff's Office, and they're corrupt." And it's like, well, first of all, I don't know what you're talking about, but second, I've never worked for any of these agencies. But it's just these people that are it's so obsessive, and there's no conversation. There's no, it's binary for them. It's zeros and ones. It's either we need to defund the police, or you're a bootlicker, if you will, is what they call us. And that's not the case. I think more training, more education, more community policing, which is something we'll talk about with Luna. I think that is what bridges that gap, because really we're just trying to keep our community safe and try to help others.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right, keyboard warriors, right, make all of our lives a little more miserable. How did you come to really embrace social media? Well, you started as an author, and then
Mm.
you developed this incredible following. Talk about the progression of that.
By accident. So it's one of those things that I wrote books, and I self-published, so I was a self-published author, and I had a little bit of a following. And then one day, my friend Gonky is his call sign. He said, "Hey, man, you need to try YouTube to try to get more people to look at your books and stuff like that." And it really didn't go anywhere until I started telling my story. I started saying, "Well, look, I became a fighter pilot, and this is how." And I was just an average guy that just didn't take no for an answer, and that resonated with people. And then I started doing a little segment called Mover Ruins Movies, which is really awesome to do, because you make fun of how wrong movies get. And now that I do law enforcement, I've kind of dabbled in. I watch like The Rookie, right? You watch these shows and you're like, who did this? Who was your advisor for some of this stuff? Why are you both pointing guns at each other? You're the good. This is terrible. You're flagging each other, and it it just grew, and it built a community of people that appreciate the idea that we're all fallible, we all make mistakes, but being genuine, don't present yourself as something you're not. And I think that's what resonates with people, versus the typical social media where like everything's great. I've got these fancy cars, and I've never struggled a day in my life. Well, you won't get that with anything I ever do.
So, CW, tell us how Luna Bell came into your life.
Yeah, so Luna was a trash bag dog. She was found in a dumpster in behind a gas station in Arkansas. Her entire litter had been dumped, and this rescue call at the time was called Cajun Tails Rescue. They were adopting huskies, and they grabbed her out of the dumpster, and they brought her down here. And I saw her on Pet Finder, and I said, "Well, I'll foster her and see how that works out." And I honestly, I had two older dogs. I didn't think it was going to work out, because they didn't seem to be getting along with her that well. Or it's not that they didn't get along, but they seemed sad, And I was like, I don't want them to feel bad in their older years. And so I started to bring her back, and she cried and she cried and she cried. I actually did a video about this. It's on I've made a channel for her. And she cried, and I was like talking to the coordinator for the rescue, and they're like, you said 2 weeks. It's only been 5 days. What are you doing? Keep her. And I brought her back home, and she stopped crying. As soon as we got in the driveway, she stopped crying. And that was probably one of the best decisions. That's one of the best decisions I've ever made, because it just worked out. She became such a good girl. Um, and what ended up happening was the boys got older, and one had cancer, one had a degenerative problem. They were 12 and 14, and they passed away. And when the second dog passed away, I was actually going to go help our PIO with um, setting up for an event, because she's like, "We're doing this on YouTube. YouTube. Can you help us out?" So I had to cancel because that was the day I said goodbye to my oldest. And then that next day, I was like, "Hey, look, I'll go help you, but I don't want to leave her by herself. She just lost, the only other dog she's ever known. Can she come with me?" She's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I took her up there with me, and Luna was just amazing. Everybody loved her, and because it was just employees. And I got back and I got to thinking, this is a thing. Therapy dogs and comfort canines are a thing. Do you think maybe we could do this with Luna? And luckily, I had a PIO that was forward thinking and believed in the mission. And I said, well, hold on, I know somebody, and I had known the National Police Association previously, just through social media. And we had previously talked about a grant for our reserve division. And I said, hey, would this grant cover her training? And they said, we'll tell you what, we think that's a great idea. We'll cover her training completely. And so they covered her training. They also covered, see if I have it, Luna cards, which I think is the coolest thing there.
I
Um,
love it.
and coins. And so it took us a little under 2 months. We did the training with a local group here. We got her certified through the Alliance of Therapy Dogs, and she became the first therapy canine for law enforcement in the area. I think maybe the state. I've yet to hear every. In fact, other agencies now are reaching out saying, "Hey, how do you set this up?" And almost everybody says you're the first ones to do it. So it's been amazing. It's been cool to have the support of the agency. It's been the support of the public. Other deputies have supported it. I'll bring her out now. We'll go. We go to public events, so the real canine doesn't have to do as much stuff with those dogs. We go to hospitals, special needs daycares. We've gone to nursing homes. I take her out on patrol, and I think that's the coolest thing. Is because I'm road certified, because I'm a reserve and kind of can do whatever I want within the realm of the agency. I can now take her with me, and I'll be on patrol, go to a call, come back, and then when we hang out to write a report or something, I get her out of the unit, and now she's a stress relief for the full time deputies.
How has it affected you personally to have her and be able to deal with some of the stuff that you have to deal with as a reserve deputy, and also as a member of our military? Um, you know, what are the positive effects on you personally?
I'm proud of her. I mean, just having her, even though she's sleeping. This is so. I wanted her to sit up, but this is actually her being good because she gets in this car. Oh, here she goes, Luna. Oh, she's turned around. She's just such a chill dog. She's laid
Yeah.
back. She's a good girl. But you just look at her. She's stress relief, right? She's got the flipper flopper ears. She's got the pink nose. She's got the brown eye and the blue eye. She's got the fluffy tail. Um, she wears pink, so everybody knows that she's not threatening. She doesn't look like your typical police dog. And with her demeanor, if you have a bad day, just looking at her, you see pure love and pure joy. And having taken her out, to me, there's no greater feeling than being able to help somebody else and taking her and seeing their reaction. When we were first in training, there was a young boy. He's probably 3, and when we got to this place, it was a special needs daycare, and they said, "Look, this one kid, he doesn't like men and he doesn't like dogs, and so odds are he's going to scream and cry as soon as y'all walk in. It's no problem. Don't worry about it. We're going to take him out, but we're going to try anyway." And during that little 30-minute session, he kept coming back asking to pet Luna. He kept coming back asking to see her. And by the end of the day, he gave me a high five. And I've kept up with that group. And now he's doing petting zoos when they bring the animals to that place and stuff. So her presence the one time has transformed, his outlook on things that were scary to him. And so to me, having that opportunity makes it all worthwhile. And what's cool is on the military side, they've even recognized it. Air Force Reserve Command wrote an article about us and just the stuff that we've done together. And to me, it's an honor because she has allowed me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do.
What do you look for, and what did the trainers look for in her to know that she'd be a good therapy dog, a comfort canine?
So the first thing is the demeanor. That's step one. You have to have a dog that's calm, that's not highly reactive, that's not hyper, it's not going to jump everywhere. She was 2 years old when we started. She's three now. But that initial demeanor test is the absolute most important part, because some dogs are just not cut out for it. They're too high strung, they're too high maintenance. You want a dog like this that will just get bored and lay down and is not, constantly whining. Now, she will whine when she's hangry, but that's just because the husky comes out in her. You got to
I
keep
do
her
that
fed.
too.
Yeah. So, but she's overall, you need that calm demeanor that when things get a little tough, because sometimes it's stressful for me. Our PIO laughs at me because I always get stressed when it's a lot of little kids, because I see that, I don't have kids, but so I'm not used to being around them. But also when they're around, they don't really know the rules yet, so they'll crowd her, they'll pull, they'll pinch and stuff, and it scares me because the last thing you want to have happen is have the program go away because something bad happens. And the fact that she's got the demeanor that she has, she rolls with it. She doesn't get stressed out. She stays calm even when things get a little rough. Now, granted, I remove her from that situation so it
Mm.
doesn't escalate, because that's my job. But you want that dog that kind of gives you that little bit of buffer, because any dog can have, it just because a dog has an incident doesn't mean it's a bad dog. Sometimes it's the handler that puts the dog in the bad situation. But
Hmm.
having a dog with a very calm demeanor gives you that little bit of buffer that you don't put yourself in a bad situation.
What did it mean to have the National Police Association embrace you and Lunabelle and really support you in this goal that you had?
I mean, it was an incredible honor. The National Police Association, obviously, very well known. It's a advocate for law enforcement across the country. I followed them before that, so we had that contact, and it's, to me, the fact that we're not just locally recognized but kind of nationally recognized just by the validation of having the National Police Association behind us. I think it speaks volumes, and what it's allowed us to do with our public, because as you know, sometimes the public doesn't understand, and so you'll get like these vile comments about don't waste money on this. Well, for us, we're not. There's no money out of pocket for the sheriff and the sheriff's department, because Luna is my dog, so I pay for everything. The National Police Association sponsored her training, sponsored her equipment, her vest, as part of that grant, and then uh, the unit that we drive is a reserve unit. It's a hand me down, So there was no out of pocket cost to the taxpayer, and they've gotten such a leading edge product out of it that other agencies are now trying to emulate. So I think that because of that opportunity, it made it possible. Because otherwise, I don't think, if you'd have said, "Hey, can we get $2,000 to go do this?" That's a very tough sell for something that not many people understand.
Yeah, that is incredibly well said. So you also took your knowledge of media and social media and all of that and went a couple steps further. Talk about that with Lunabelle.
Well, Luna, so I already had an Instagram page, Lemoine Dogs, and I just, because the other two had passed away, I kind of changed it to being just Luna. And so we made a Facebook page and an Instagram page and a YouTube channel documenting her training, documenting her life, the things she does. And to me, it not only does it show how good the program is, but it inspires others to rescue dogs. And that's another passion of mine in general, is that, adopt, don't shop. The life you save may be your own with these rescue dogs that just want a second chance. They are looking for their forever home. So I think she's inspired people to not only do things that are outside of their comfort zone, but also to go find friends and at the shelter. So I think that, that's it's good for her. It's good for us.
And there are tens of thousands of dogs in this country that are truly adoptable and have no homes. And that's a message, that adopt, don't shop. I don't think that's a message that we get out enough. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about you and Luna, is that you talk about rescue. And you talk about, you don't need a $10,000 purebred to be a great therapy dog, comfort canine, or even a service dog, do you?
No, absolutely not. And I wish I could clone her, and I say that every time I have a rescue dog. My boys were Malinois mixes. And, if I could have cloned them, I would have. Because every time you get a rescue dog, you go, oh, I wish I could clone this dog. But that's actually the magic of a rescue dog, is because you don't know what their personality is going to be. You don't know what they're going to get. I mean, Luna has the scruffy face, but the heterochromia for the eyes, and she's part husky, but then she's part schnauzer, then she's part Dutch shepherd. So she's got like a mix of everything, and you get the best. You get the best of all worlds. And I truly believe that they realize that you've saved them. And, there's that little bit of bond of appreciation, like, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
And they'll repay it back. They'll always repay it back to you in the worst times of your life.
Yeah, I really believe that there's nothing in this world more grateful than a rescue dog. CW, where can people find your books? Where can they find all of your social media and learn more about you and Lunabelle?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is cwlemoine.com. That's for all the books. Any social media, CW Lemoine, so YouTube, X now, it's not Twitter, or Instagram. Luna's channel is Lunabelle Lemoine, so her Instagram and Facebook's all under that. So, but if you go to that website, you can probably find it there. But she is amazing, and I'm very grateful for what you guys have done and what our community has done in supporting us.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your story with our audience. And if you would like more information about the National Police Association, visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Ma'am, put the gun down! Put the gun down!
Last year, law enforcement officers were involved in hundreds of thousands of use of force incidents. A use of force incident is when an officer must use nonverbal tactics to gain control of a dangerous situation.
Put the knife on the ground.
In many cases, officers have no choice but to use force when a suspect doesn't comply with a lawful order.
Use of force is always ugly. No one likes it, especially police officers.
Together, we can help de-escalate these dangerous encounters. Help police officers by complying with their lawful orders. Don't attack, attempt to disarm, or flee from an officer.
Use of force is an officer's last option. Most incidents can be avoided by not resisting arrest.
If you feel you've been wrongfully detained by a police officer, then seek a legal solution after the encounter has been resolved.
Let's keep everyone safe. Comply now and